In the interest of not appearing to be paid by Disney to promote Andor, which they certainly are not doing, this video's intent is to show you that despite Sunday's video, there are two things in Season 2 that I actually dislike. And also, in the interest of being fair, I'll also cover some things I really like about the second season, all in preparation for Tuesday's final 3 episodes of the series. But before we get to that, let's explore the gravity of this situation. Many a show has been beloved during its run, only to squander every bit of goodwill it had gathered with a bad ending. A bad ending absolutely ruined Game of Thrones' place in TV culture forever. A bad ending ruined Lost in the same way. In both of these cases, though, the end was not known from the beginning of the process. Or at least in Game of Thrones' case, not all of the ending. Breaking Bad is widely considered one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and you know why? Because Vince Gilligan had the story worked out from day one. He knew where he wanted Walt to start his journey and where he wanted him to end up. And from there, a classic was born. I'm hoping that Tony Gilroy had the beginning and the end of Andor in his mind when he started this project, and I think he did. So we will see if he sticks the landing tomorrow. Anyway, about Andor. One thing I dislike about Season 2, and again, in the sense of fairness, is the Andor hangs out in the jungle with a Junior Rebellion space cadets for like an hour plotline. Andor successfully, if clumsily, did manage to steal a super secret prototype TIE fighter from right under the Empire's noses, and he brings it to a rendezvous location on Yavin. As an aside, did you know it was Yavin? I didn't, until a Discord member clued me in later, so thanks for that, Gallons. It looks like it should be an ordinary handoff between two members of the rebellion, but surprise! Andor is immediately captured by a group of 15 rebels because they think he's an imp. Because 1, he arrived in a TIE fighter, fair, and 2, he's wearing an Imperial flight suit, also very fair. So far so good. My expectations were subverted, and this is a lot more interesting than watching Andor talk to a pilot for a few minutes and then head off to his next assignment. But then it never ends. Andor spends the entirety of the first 3 episodes with these children. I say children, they do appear to be adults, but they're acting like kids. They're constantly bickering with each other, no one appears to be in charge, and they can't decide whether to trust Andor or shoot him dead. If this had been a single episode, it would have been fine. Andor shows up, gets captured, escapes while they're arguing, and that's it. But no, for 3 episodes, every time we see Cassian, he's tied up listening to these idiots fight like some polyamorous cult. It got old for me really fast. They keep mentioning their leader Maya, who Andor says he knows. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he does, but she apparently abandoned them all on Yavin for some reason. Maybe because she was sick of their infighting. I was hoping that Andor's time in the jungle wasn't a complete waste of time, that maybe this mysterious leader Maya would come into play later, but she hasn't shown up yet. And we're 9 episodes in, and if she never shows up again, which I don't think she will, I consider that whole plot line a major waste of time. Clearly, the writers just needed a way to park Andor for a few episodes before he arrives on Mina Rao to try to save Bix and Brasso, which was very cool, but man, spending that much time in the jungle, it drove him crazy, and I think it drove me crazy as well. So, moving on to the second thing I've disliked about Season 2 so far is Bix's dream fantasy revenge escapade. You know what I'm talking about. Andor is not a show about happy endings. It is not a show about justice. So when Episode 6 ends with a single scene showing Bix ambush her torturer from Season 1, Dr. Gorst, I was certain this was a dream sequence. Not only does she get the drop on him with no apparent effort, she also manages to lock him into a chair and force him to endure the exact same torture she experienced in Season 1, right down to the same head contraption she was forced to wear. Then she leaves, with him screaming in agony, shoots a guard, meets up with Andor, and he flicks a switch on a handheld remote to blow the entire floor of the building. It is the most perfect revenge for Bix imaginable. There's no lead up to it, there's no fallout, there's no conversation before or after this happens. It doesn't fit into the story at all. I was convinced this was a dream sequence, and to be honest, a large part of me still thinks it was. She's been having realistic dream sequences all season after all. Yeah, they're nightmares, and this one is definitely not a nightmare, but it still fits in with the previous stuff that's been going on in the season. What I really think happened is this. Bix just fantasizing about getting her perfect revenge on her personal monster, but in the real world, due to constraints and the very real risk of it getting back to her, it just never happens. Cassian talks her out of it, she can never make it work, and that's the reality. I have no idea what the writing team or the showrunners were thinking with this one. It's like Disney demanded they add in a girl boss scene for Bix, and so they did. They didn't put any effort into it. They didn't tie it into the story at all. And they were like, here you go, Disney overlords. Here's Bix getting her revenge. And they were like, hooray. It's just a weird blemish on an otherwise pretty darn incredible show. So those are the two things I didn't like. But let's end this with some things that I did like. Because again, I love this show. I love that Dedra apparently has a soul. She's been portrayed as nothing but ruthless at getting what she wants, willing to do anything, betray anyone, and be pure evil as long as it helps her career in the ISB. She's even willing to keep her boyfriend, boyfriend? Maybe Cyril, into the dark about what's really going on Gorman because it furthers the Empire's goals and therefore hers. But then we see chinks in the armor. Cyril accosts and confronts her about what's really going on, and she's shown being visibly uncomfortable with the plan that she's such a huge part of and about lying to him. And then later, when she's asked to please give final approval for the plan in episode 9, she pauses for a good few seconds with hints of pain and fear in her face. Eventually, she gives her verbal approval reluctantly, and the plan proceeds, but this was clearly not an easy thing for her. The Dedra I thought I knew in Season 1 would have absolutely morally approved of what the Empire was doing on Gorman. Either I didn't know her as well as I thought, or she's changing as a character. Maybe due to her relationship with Cyril? I just don't know what else it would be. Maybe she hit her personal limits on what kind of evil she's willing to participate in. I'm interested to see where her story goes from here, certainly. And then, yes, she 100% emotionally reacts after Cyril confronts her about lying to him. It's really a bad day for her overall, and it would have been even worse if not for Cyril's intervention into Cassian's attempted sniping. Two thoughts on this topic, and then I'll move on. Number one, Dedra's final act in this arc was to approve an order that resulted in Cyril's death. Cyril's final act in this arc was to save her life. Brutal ending for him. And two, there's nothing Cassian could have said to hurt Cyril more than, "Who are you?" Cyril's entire arc for these 2 seasons has been to track down the murderer Cassian Andor and bring him to justice. Everything that's gone wrong in Cyril's life can be attributed to Andor. And for Cassian to not even know who he is, because of course he doesn't. He's never met Cyril. No one's ever told him who Cyril is. This is the most emotionally damaging thing possible for Cyril Karn. Cyril went from having a really good last couple years to being in the worst possible place in the space of about 30 minutes. And then he died. Rest in peace, Cyril. And as a homework assignment, was Cyril evil? Was his support of the Empire enough to make him morally reprehensible? Discuss in the comments and we'll talk about it in a later episode. One thing I really liked also was how workmanlike Captain Kaido is in his function as destabilizer on Gorman. His job was to create a massacre in that plaza, and he worked very hard to ensure it happened, closing off the plaza for days in advance, only to open it on the day he wanted the event to occur, bringing in new recruits to man the front lines for the Empire, knowing they'd not have the discipline necessary to keep calm in a very volatile situation, closing the exits to the plaza behind the protesters as they came in, putting a man on the roof to snipe one of his own men to further encourage panic among the Imperial soldiers in the plaza. And from there, everything went perfectly according to his plan. And was he visibly happy? Enthusiastic? Nervous? None of the above. Captain Kaido showed a workmanlike approach to his job from start to finish. Like I said in Sunday's video, he's evil, but a competent, rational evil. That's different from the cartoon evil that we usually get in Star Wars. As a quick bonus to wrap up, I was sure they'd kill Bix in Season 2. She's not in Rogue One, so like Brasso and Marva before her, she needed to die to further put Andor in the headspace he's in by the time we meet him in an alley, killing an informant for operational security back in 2016. So I was pleasantly surprised they came up with a way to get her out of Andor's life without seeing her die. And it makes perfect sense that Bix is a true believer in the rebellion and that she firmly believes that it needs Andor. And if Andor wants out, because the thing he wants most is a life with Bix, and honestly, who can blame him? Damn, Adria Arjona is a fine, fine woman. She needs to coax him to see the rebellion through to the end by any means necessary. And that means, it turns out, is leaving him with a promise to return if he finishes the job. Absolutely heartbreaking and absolutely realistic, in my opinion. The writers gave us just enough time watching them together this season that I really feel the loss from both of their perspectives. She doesn't want to leave him. He doesn't want her to leave him. It's just sad, even before we remember that Cassian dies on Scarif and never sees Bix again. At least Bix got her victory over the Empire. I wonder if we'll see her again in future Star Wars media. And that's going to be it for me today. Subscribe if you enjoyed my ramblings. I'll be back to react to the final arc of Andor Season 2 on Tuesday. Here's hoping they stick the landing. And until then, you take care of yourself.